Hi, and welcome to Nothing Ventured, Nothing Gained. Today, we'll be talking about the upcoming playtest next week. If you're watching this in the future, that was January 5th to February 5th. This is complete speculation on our part, and it's kind of what we want. So stick around and take a load off. So, today, what we're going to be talking about is the upcoming playtest. Now, they've already announced that it will be 2 new classes. Now, I don't think Paizo is going to be a bunch of jerks and re-release Magus and Summoner just updated. That was
round 2.
Yeah, I doubt that. Yeah, I really doubt that's what they're going to do. They did say on their website 2 new classes. I don't think this will be coming out in the Secrets of Magic, as Secrets of Magic is coming out in the summer of 2021, and I think this would be too close for revisions and stuff for even it to make into the book. So this is probably going to be coming out in a later book. So let's go around the room. Okay, my assumption is going to be Inquisitor and a possible third class, maybe something like a non-magical bard, and I'll get into what that means. Steve, your thoughts? What are your 2 guesses? Give me 2 good guesses.
So I'm trying to think about it. My one guess, I honestly think that Inquisitor is a high likelihood. Just the way it is. I don't want to get into too much detail. That's going to happen later. And then the more I was thinking about it, I'm actually trying to think of another class that could be close. Because, like, we'll say with Secrets of Magic, there was the Magus, which is a arcane fighter, and then there was the Summer, which is a arcane caster with ability of summoning a pet. Right, so they're both like yet again, the book's called Secrets of Magic, so they're both attached by magic. So if we thinking that the Inquisitor is going to be something, I'm trying to think of another class that may be similar to Inquisitor, just in a different vein.
Okay.
Almost like maybe I'm not even trying to think of like old classes that were like Holy Warriors, but it was more like not even martial based, but like the Inquisitor was like half skills, half cleric spellcasting, weird cleric spellcasting. And I'm trying to think of like maybe there would be a new class that's like a different vein of religious magic in another vein, but I'm not coming up with anything useful. The only other thing I could think of that it's completely unrelated, that it's more on the skill side, would be ninja.
Okay. And now Fabio, what are your 2 guesses?
So I think we're all putting our Inquisitor card down on the table, in attack mode, ready to fucking go. But no, I agree with both of you. I do think that one of the classes is going to be Inquisitor, which, if it is, it's going to be Christmas round 2! That's all I've wanted! Except for one other thing, which I'm going to mention, which I know it's not, but I'm hoping it's a lie. I'm hoping with all my whole heart. But first, no, I honestly think Inquisitor is going to be like one of the classes. I love the old school Inquisitor, and I feel like I never really got a chance to go deep into it the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that they didn't give the amount of attention to it that I felt that it needed, right? But it was still a really dope class. I had really great ideas, and I was like, ooh, I want to play this class. And I was just like, bring it to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Pretty please, with sugar on top and all the gumdrops, whatever you need. Just instant diabetes. If it'll make you do it, just give it to me. Give me Inquisitor. So I hope that they do Inquisitor. And I think they've been dropping like little hints here and there that make it seem that might be one of them. But we'll see. The second thing, I don't think it's going to happen. And this is me, wishing all that type of stuff. Gunslinger. I know it's probably not going to happen, but closed mouth don't get fed, so I gotta ask and say, please give me Gunslinger, pretty please. But I feel like it's possible. I think it would be difficult, only because like I know they'd have to add like a whole bunch of stuff for guns. But then, add a whole bunch of stuff for guns, B! Just do it! You don't want to do it? Let me do it, I'll do it. I'll totally do it. And I feel like it wouldn't be so hard to play because of how they're doing the whole swashbuckler. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel that there's some rules already in play that could be done to make the Gunslinger feasible. I just know that it would be a lot of work, and I know they're already like, we're not doing it. But I feel like they're saying, we're not doing it. Yeah. Hard wink. But, we'll see what happens. So those are my two choices.
Fair enough. Okay. So, I think a lot of us spoke on this when we said Inquisitor, right? We all kind of think Inquisitor is coming. I kind of have this weird inkling that Inquisitor is going to definitely be the one dropped. Only because I know it had to be up there. I remember them saying something a long time ago about, like, when the playtest for 2nd edition was being made, that they had, like, a list of classes that people really, really wanted, and Inquisitor was, like, at towards the top, and then that's why it hasn't come out yet. I think Inquisitor, like you said, Steve, is gonna be like a hybrid class, and like you said, Fabio, like this, it's gonna have I think in my head it's gonna be similar to maybe the Magus, where you're gonna have, or the Summoner, you're gonna have that limited spell list, but you're gonna have a lot of dope things you can do. So the Inquisitor had these judgments where they would put like a magical entity, not an entity, a magical ability on their weapon, and those would be like destruction or healing or justice or piercing and stuff like that, and those would affect how you would play, because I remember them being like, you were able to kind of interchange them as you got higher in levels, and then like that.
Yeah, you could pick one. You could pick any one of the judgments, but then you can like, okay, well, next fight, or you can like spend an action to shift them. To another one. Like, oh, well, I want the damage one now. Oh man, I'm getting beat up. Well, I need the spellcasting one, or I need the defense one, or I need the protection one. And there was a bunch of different ones, and eventually you can have 2 or 3 of these running at one time.
Yeah, that was
dope as fuck.
So the reason why I bring that up, the judgments, is because we've already seen something like that in 2nd edition. Now, bear with me. It's going to sound crazy. I think, but if the Inquisitor is it, I think what we're going to see is a hybrid monk cleric.
I knew it. I fucking knew it. Fucking knew it.
Because you have the monk's action to enter a stance, or they get the focus point, the key, right? So that single action to enter in a stance to use a judgment, I think that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be kind of like a weird hybrid monk cleric. Am I off base on this one?
No, I think it's possible. I definitely think so. The idea of a stance is you're just activating something, right? Yeah. You're doing a move that changes your damage. You're doing a move that adds certain abilities to you. So I'm like, it's like a buff. It's like doing that type of thing is something that we're used to.
Yeah.
Whether it's looking at it for, casting like a bless spell, whether you're going into wolf stance, or whether, it's a thing where you're using one of those, whatchamacallit, like the extra spells that certain clerics and sorcerers and stuff like that
focus
get.
Spells.
Oh, yeah.
Focus spells.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, in my mind, like, these things exist. So I feel like the whole monk idea, like, all right, I'm getting into piercing stance, or I'm getting into healing stance. It's just judgment. Yeah. It's changing the wording and changing how the function works. I think that's really, like, simple, and it's not breaking the game. It's just changing something that we already know. Right? And it's like, at the end of the day, it's still, theater of the mind, unless, you have like something else. This is how I think this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to jump into this stance. It's going to give me a little bit of bonus to damage. It's going to be a bonus to healing. It's going to have me, maybe be more aggressive or whatever it is. Yeah, they can do that. I can definitely see that as possible.
I can see them doing it in that way, where it's either like a focus spell mechanic, where depending on which avenue, and they may have multiple avenues, or which god you pick maybe gives you different access to focus spells, which gives you access to different judgments. That could be kind of cool. And here's the thing, is like, I see where you're going, and I would have no problem if they went that direction. The one thing I can think of is, and it's a weird thing to say, but I'm talking from a purely mechanic standpoint, I think they could do something with like the panache mechanic. Entering like a panache, like the idea of panache is you do something that's, your particular focus, and you enter this panache mode where it's either on or off. Right. So if I have faith, right, let's say call it like a faith mechanic. I have faith, I get a bunch of benefits, but then I can expend it to get like a big move, like panache. Like I gain panache, but like, oh, I could do a tumble and I look cool, right? And I get movement speed, I get bonuses on some skills, or that I can go, oh, well, I'm going to stab you to death, and I'm going to use my panache to activate this cool feat. And I think that they could use this like concept and apply it to like a faith mechanic, and the Inquisitor like enacts their faith, and then just like turn like get super powered for a little bit, and then they can expend it and do some crazy shit. I think that'd be dope.
That'd be dope. That's actually pretty cool. I like that. I could see that where like you have like a panache system. Having panache actually does open up a lot of avenues for new classes to be released. That'd be cool. You know, I think the Inquisitor will have domains, because in first edition they still had domains, because you did choose a deity that you aligned to.
Yeah.
And this would be the third deity based class.
Yeah, the third
druid has no deity. Druid's like it's earth magic or terra magic. Which you get, someone comes to you and is like, yo, you want some magic? And you're like, yeah, I'll get some magic.
Yeah, like, not a direct deity.
Yeah. They're like, yo,
give me the magic.
You want this magic?
And same with Oracle too.
And Oracle is very much like very obscure. It's just like the gods just
the mysteries.
Yeah, you just have mysteries. So I think this would be because champion you have to have a deity, because you could get domains. And cleric you have to have a deity or a religion. I believe you could be part of the Green Faith, or
you could always like mess it around.
Cleric champions too.
Yeah.
You could always mess it around with both of them.
Yeah, so I think Inquisitor would make sense if they are kind of like rounding out classes that would bring something in. Okay. So now I'm going to jump over to my non-magical bard.
Oh God.
Hold on one second.
And I'm gonna bring this up. And the moment I say it, Fabio's gonna be like, I'd play that class. So
you know how I feel about bards, bro.
So I bring up non-magical bards. And the reason why I bring up non-magical bards is for one reason. Zim from Starship Troopers. He was a drill sergeant, right?
Yeah.
And he commanded troops. That's what you are. You command your troops, which is your party, right? And you have shouts, right? So you just scream things out. And like I could be like, Fabio, attack now, and then I could give you an attack of opportunity reaction.
There's a class like this.
And I could grant that to you. So then you could burn your reaction to use that. And then I could be like, Steve, get into, position. And then Steve can move, maybe half his movement speed to maybe flank with you. And it's a shout. So my whole class is all about like these shouts to buff my team.
You want to shout, put your hands, shout, put your... Yeah, I'd lose my damn mind.
Yeah.
I'd just be yelling at people.
Yeah, and that's the whole class. That's my class. In my head is a
I get to be loud.
Yeah. It's a charisma based class. Maybe they have heavy armor. Maybe they get martial weapons, but they don't get like the fighter or the barbarian like level increases. Maybe they follow similar with the armor increases like the champion, but they themselves are just called like a field marshal
or a commander, right? Or the commander, yeah.
From 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. I know this is about 2nd edition Pathfinder. But, imitation is the highest form of flattery. But I think having a non-magical, buffing class would be really interesting. Because if you look at it, you have Guidance and Bless are the 2 early level buffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think like a shouting mechanic where I spend 2 actions, you could follow it like spells. I spend 2 actions to grant you attack of opportunity, but like as an option to a non-magical class.
Yeah, that would be really cool for the people that like to really role play and get into it. and also want to be like, all right, somebody who's like super tactical, that's able to really see the battlefield for what it is, or see a situation, for what it could be, and be like, you know what, I want to jump in and take control, right? See, what's that line you say from the Mass Effect?
From Mass Effect, assuming direct control.
Exactly, you're assuming direct control in like in the game, right? And I love like whether it's warlords, whether it's field commander, whether it's your tactician, however you want to put it. But it's like you're using your shouts, I think that's fun. I don't like magic. Like I majority of the classes I play are not magical, or I don't play them fully magical just because I don't like remembering spells.
Yeah.
Remembering exactly what all of them have to do. And I was like, can I shoot stuff? All right, cool. Can I hit stuff? All right, cool. I like the option of being able to use an action kind of like how you would direct a pet.
Yeah.
But you can do so with your teammates, maybe burning a reaction, burning maybe one of their actions on their own turn. Like, let's say you do a certain thing, maybe they're slowed for a round because you hit them with using something out of turn type of thing. I feel like that could be interesting, and it's optional. You can choose not to do it, so you're like, nah. But if I want to buff and be like, yo, get in the mix, or swing again, or do a thing again, that would be fun. I played that class. I played the shit out of that class.
Oh, yeah. And you could play that class a million different ways. I would like to see a class that uses certain skills that are very vague and make them non-vague. So like, maybe the tactician class, right? They get lore warfare just off the bat. And then it says like, okay, if you're trying to like, you get a knowledge check, and if you have this shout up, you can you can use your warfare to make a recall knowledge check on certain monsters.
Oh, I like that.
Instead of using nature, you can just recall warfare and say, oh, well, I know owl bears hate loud noise. I don't know that. Please, if you're listening to this, don't play your next game and start being like, I heard owl bears hate loud noises. You might get mauled to death.
No, I can just imagine someone listening to this before they play Agents of Edgewatch. Hint, there's an owlbear fight, really early level, and you run in the room. Ah! Swipe, you're dead.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna get moited.
Yeah. Don't listen to me, please. But I like that's what I mean about like a third optional class that's not magic based, and I think that would be fun. I only brought it up because I know Fabio hates magic, and Fabio should only be a bard, because not allowing Fabio to just be Fabio is an offense to God.
He gets mad. Not you, Steve. The other guy.
Yeah.
Right. I've always been a fan of like anything where you get like some type of crowd control presence, and or at least some type of just I want to be able to maneuver the battlefield this way. Like, all right, I may not be the strongest person, but I can figure out weaknesses. I can give people buffs. That's to me. That's always fun. I feel it makes you play the game differently and intelligently, and makes you use skills that you may normally. I'm like, all right, just like you were saying with the whole warfare thing. Right? Like when I played Artari, and I would use like my Monster Hunter feat. I enjoyed learning what these monsters did. Some of them already knew what they did, but everyone was just like, all right, tell me a story. Tell me how is this gonna work? Right? Having that same moment, like whether it's a charisma thing, because not everybody wants to get into the whole like, oh, deception or I'm gonna try and persuade you to do some shit or try to get you to diplomatize, whatever you want to use, right? I know that can get weird, but I feel like a class like this makes it a lot more fun. Because I feel like you'd probably get a little bit more advantage over it. You can probably give others a little bit more advantage over it, have a little bit more control. I think that would be interesting to try out. I'd love to see if that were to be a class where you have options like that. I feel like you could make it work and be fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Imagine if, let's say, I'm actually been trying to find a common thread between like Inquisitor, which we kind of all believe that has a good chance of being the next playtest class, and the other class. Like I said, the 4 classes that came out in the APG, well, the playtest, and then eventually came out in the APG, they weren't necessarily associated with each other, but they made sense. So that they weren't, like I said, we weren't attached. But when they came up with secrets and magic, that the two classes were inherently linked together in some way. So with this class, imagine if your judgments, because obviously they don't have to pull exactly old rules and just try to convert them to new editions. That's not the point. The point is to make it function in second edition, right? So we're thinking about this like I said, another way of having a support class. What happens if they sprinkle a little support into the Inquisitor and have the Inquisitor judgments affect your party?
That'd be dope.
Well, maybe that's a feat line, right? So they don't necessarily get that immediately, but you can have like a line that says, okay, well, instead of my judgments like getting better, or maybe I get more of them, I can then irradiate a judgment to everyone around me.
That'd be dope.
That would be really cool. You know, then again, that then comes in like, well, that's the magic support class. That's not really a bard, but that's more like the religious bent. And then we have like the more martial bent of like this warlord / knight errant, whatever class you want to call it, idea, which may or may not exist, which I think is cool. Like I've seen people play this in 4th edition at D&D, where they had this like supporting class, like, okay, well, I strike, and then you get to move half your movement, or if I hit this character, you get the +1 on your next attack. You know, all these like weird quirky abilities, and I think that definitely could work in Pathfinder as like not a replacement, but as a different avenue of, like you said, Fabio, you don't like magic, or maybe you don't want to play the sing-songy kind of rogue character, but you want to be like this like stalwart knight, but that commands your troops and be, like I said, is a commander or is some sort of thing. I think that would definitely work. And there was two different styles of, I'm like a militant cleric kind of, versus I'm like a knight from a court.
A militant person,
yeah.
Moving away from my fantastical third creation class, I would like to move on to the topic that was brought up by Steve, and that is your alternate option, and not Inquisitor, the alternate options.
So I was, like I said, in thinking of different classes that, and yet again, it doesn't have to be from 1st edition, but 1st edition had a lot of classes. So I've just been looking into different things that were similar to Inquisitor in that kind of bent, where it was like a whole. I'm thinking that if they're going to go this route, they're going to fill in something that's missing.
Yeah.
Like we had talked, Jared and I had talked earlier about. Well, what's missing for thing? Well, like I said, with this kind of support idea of like having a purely martial support class is a thing that's missing, because you have the investigator, which kind of does it, but they're more focused on the mystery of what they're investigating and then kind of rating buffs outside to their party about that. And that's great for like ongoing campaigns. That's a little harder to swallow for like if you're playing Society and you're always having to find that one thing, so then you're allowed to get buffs to other people in such a more quick sense as Society is. The other thing is like the other thing that the Inquisitor was known for was their skills, and they're trying to figure out what monsters' weaknesses are, because their other ability that they had was at a certain level they could just activate their weapon and all of a sudden it became bane of that creature. So another skills-based class that is very popular, or at least was very popular in 1st edition, was the ninja. It's not necessarily about the knowledge skills, that's just more of like a mystical rogue. And then you have those skills to be able to manipulate and help your party in that way, and just be. So maybe the skills focus is that one thing that's holding them together. Is like Inquisitor more focused on skills than cleric and paladin, and then ninja was like a more like a magic focused rogue.
So like an alternate, like you said, like a magic focused rogue. Now we did say they have Eldritch Trickster, which is a subclass of rogue, which is more, you're still rogue, but you get like a few spells. I actually haven't looked into it. I apologize. But I could see being like a half caster ninja. So you like a half, like think of like
So like a ninja with not the meta magic. Why can I never remember what it is? What is it, Steve? The focus spells.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So similar to that, like they choose like a vein of ninjutsu, right? Like the mystical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're talking about talking about and dabbling monk into Inquisitor. You're dabbling monk and monk plus rogue is ninja.
Yeah,
that is true.
Right there.
So you could get a ninja that like they could create shadow, right? Like instantly for a focus point. I think there is a sorcerer class, so maybe it's monk sorcerer. Maybe that's what we're looking at here. Inquisitor is in my head, right? Inquisitor in here, this isn't true, but Inquisitor in here is monk cleric, right? And then you say, okay, what's ninja? Monk sorcerer. And now you have your
rogue sorcerer.
Can we just try to make the monk class way better?
I'm just trying. Give some love to the monk.
And what else you got? Like, what do we got in the pot? Like, all right, we got a little sorcerer, we got a little monk. All right, put them together. All right, what else we got? We got a little cleric.
Yeah, we got.
All right, put them motherfuckers together. Just dip the monk in some chocolate and some vanilla and some strawberries. It's good. Put some sprinkles on it. Bomb. That's the class.
So the monk is a very interesting class, and I could see ninja like kind of being like your ninjutsu is a bloodline thing, and that's why because and if you've now just heard me say that, you will also know that I must clearly watch Naruto. Because if you're a fan of anime, a lot of their ninja abilities are like family blood ninja ability stuff, and I could see that being interesting because like if let's say they borrow an idea from anime, that would be really interesting because you could see like a monk sorcerer, you have that bloodline ability. And you burn those focus points, right? To use special bloodline abilities that you call them your family's ninjutsu, and that would be cool. Like maybe one family's is all about literally vanishing, and then another one could be about misdirection. So you make a bunch of clones. So maybe the first thing you do is you make one clone that you can flank with. Like imagine you're able to give yourself flanking.
Ooh,
I
like that.
That changes a lot, right? And then it could be like a pet, but it would only last a minute. So like I summon it, so one action summon, I spend one action to move into flanking position, and then I can attack. I flurry of blows or whatever, and that's a lot of damage, right? Because I've set myself up for a well-timed ability. And later on, maybe down the tree, you'll have more focus points, and let's say someone crits you burn a focus point that you switch places with your clone. So the clone takes all you substitute yourself, and the clone takes all the damage and pops, turns into a log, and then you take none or you take half, right?
That'd be pretty cool.
I can also see that them getting like that's one line is like the almost like teleportation weird clone thing, and then the other line is obviously being invisible, just because what ninja doesn't want to be invisible.
Yeah.
And then another line is being able to turn into other people, like literally like using like alter self or some sort of disguise magic.
Yeah, disguise self.
And then you're like literally like walking in town as like the noble of the town or the mayor. You just barking orders at guards and shit.
Yeah. And Fabio. You were gonna say I don't want to cut you off. I want you.
Because also while you were really talking about that, my mind just went to like, so hold on a second. So I'm gonna half bite Naruto, but also half bite something that does exist.
Okay.
So the jutsu system, right?
Yeah.
So when in my mind, I'm thinking when you're talking about like bloodlines, how like in the beginning you pick like, all right, I have to pick which route I'm going, right? So you can pick like a jutsu. So maybe you have like taijutsu. So like you're really good at like fighting with random shit or like with your hands, right? And then you have like ninjutsu where it's like the whole misdirection thing where it's like you can make a clone. It's kind of like meta magic or pseudo magic or any of those type of things where it's not really magic, you're just using some weird abilities, right? And then maybe the last one is, and I like it, but I don't have a better name for it, so it's like Genjutsu, where it's like all mind stuff. It's all like maybe personality type of things, where you're manipulating a person versus like whether it's using like charisma, deception, that type of thing. And the reason why like I think of that as like part of me goes into like the ranger, where it's like, okay, you have your pet, right, in one route, like, or you're really nasty with a bow, or you're really nasty with a sword, or you're really nasty with knowing
the
one of these things. Exactly. And then when it's like, all right, fine, you pick that out. Which who is it, edge do you want? Do you want to be able to hit more? Do you want to be able to do a little bit more damage, or do you want to be really good in social settings? Right? If you have something like where it's, and I know they have like Bojutsu, Iajutsu, where it's like being nasty with like a weapon. You group that into one thing that's like, okay, I want to be the reppin' ninja. So it's like, yo, I'm nasty with martial weapons. I can do the quick, you know, quick slash with the blade, catch somebody off guard. That would be dope. You know, like catch them like, you put it away. Person falls in half. Maybe not, but you know, you could do something cool. Like, all right, you quit. You add an extra die. Wait, what? Some bullshit. Whatever.
Yeah.
They can figure that out. That's their job. They get paid the big bucks for that, right? But then you could also have where it's like the ninjutsu, where it's those little meta magic. You make your extra clone, right? You can do certain things that like screw with their senses. You can do a substitution where like maybe you're there and then a log pops up, or like, hey, you teleport, 10 feet in the opposite direction, right?
Yeah.
And it takes a damage where it's like it's guaranteed to eat one attack.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have, you're getting where it's like you're messing with somebody's dome, right? You're doing certain things where it's, in my mind, it's you're doing like the screwing up their morale, or making them think that a friend is actually a foe, right? Or vice versa, where it's kind of those type of things, but it's using that section a little bit more. I feel like that would require some tweaking, right? But I feel like if you fall within those three different lists, you can make a really interesting idea for a ninja, or at least different paths that ninjas could be that does exist in the game.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Now,
Yeah.
we're going to move over to Fabio.
Huzzah!
Tell me
Right,
about
so
tell me about you. Give me your truth.
I want a Gatslinger.
Gatslinger?
Not even a gunslinger. I want a Gatslinger. It's an easy class to make because the mechanics exist, and it's taking those mechanics to a different point. The swashbuckler, in my mind, is them saying, okay, listen, don't tell anybody. We're going to make Gunslinger, but we got to make sure this shit works. So, because if we don't, somebody named Fabio is going to pistol whip all of us. I don't know where he lives. I don't know where he's from, but he keeps sending us letters about Gatslinger. I don't know what the fuck that shit is. Listen, and then they said, we're going to make Swashbuckler, test it, see if this works. Panache makes sense.
It does.
Right? And in my mind, as soon as I saw Panache, I was just like, oh, these motherfuckers are making Gunslinger. Ooh, I gotta call somebody. And I think I called Jared at like 2 in the morning. And he was like, bro, I'm trying to sleep. I have a baby. Don't do this to me. Right? But with Gunslinger, it's Panache works with it because the mechanics are very similar to the whole grit mechanic that they used to have previously. Like, it works. So with the grit system that they used to have, basically was your Gunslinger has to be like agile, or has to be daring and does some wild shit, like, or they take these crazy shots that most people would not be able to like make, right? Whatever reason, they're just nastier when it comes to whether it's a pistol, whether it's a blunderbuss, whether it's a rifle, or I think a musket. I think that was the last one out of those three that they used to have, right? And you were skilled in that. So with Panache, the way that they have it is like, oh, you have your Panache, you get a movement buff, you get a hit buff, you can do some precision damage, right? And my mind was like, it's like having grit. And then you expend that point to do a final finisher or do something crazy. It's just like when you use your grit point, do something else. I think the trade-off with it is, as opposed to where they're limited to, I think, having one Panache, I think with Gunslingers, it's going to be a specific thing that's a little bit more ready, right? So it's like, okay, you can use your grit point and it'll give you like one of those bonuses for a certain amount of time. Or you use your grit point and while you're gathering what you can have these extra bonuses. Like you can get a bonus to speed. You can get a bonus to hit. You can get a bonus to tumble through. You can get a bonus on a specific skill that's tailored toward whatever type of gunslinger that you are, right? But you're using that grit, and I think it's by making it something that you can use constantly, but you have to do whether it's something daring or you have that conversation with your DM to figure out, hey, if I bust a flip over this goblin, twirl in the air, and then buck 2 shots at him, can I do that? We're like, all right, you're doing a daring act, do some acrobatics, shoot, see what happens, bomb. Or if you crit, you get your grit. These are things that like we know in the past is possible, and we see a bit of it in the Swashbuckler. So in my mind, I think it's something that they could easily do, but I understand the difficulties with, guns. And like that's its own laundry list of issues that they'd have to, add in and with its own errata and try and make sense. So I get that. I still want it, So like that's my thought with like Gunslinger. I just see it as this beast. It's more martial than it is like how the swashbuckler is more akin to the rogue. I feel like the gunslinger is more akin to like martial. You just have a lot of cool shit that you can do in addition to just like, all right, I'm gonna shoot. All right, nah. I'm a ricochet a shot off the wall and it's gonna hit that person around the corner. Okay, you're hitting at a -5 or a -10 because it's like it's taking crazy map, but who else can shoot around corners? I want to do wanted shit. Give me that.
So, I guess my question is, how do you resolve
Are you going to say the gun problem?
Yeah.
It's a problem. Yeah, see, I think you want to say something?
No, what's the gun problem? I'm not clear.
We don't have guns in the current system, and it would be adding an entire list and function for a very specific class. So the way they did it previously was guns had misfire, and depending on which era you were in with guns, whether it's like, oh, you're in an era with no guns, so it's like, you made this boomstick. Nobody else knows how it works. You have to basically fix it. You have to take care of it, maintain it, all that. Or you're in a place where there's some guns where it's like all flintlock pistols where you roll anywhere between a 1 or 2 or 3, your gun blows up, right? And you lose your pinky finger for some reason, right? That's the way that they had it previously. And there was a whole list of guns and how they worked and reloading. And it was just, there was a lot of little mechanics that were all specific to that. It's not in, the main books. It's not in any of the books. It's not in any of the erratas. They don't really talk that much about guns in the game, right? And if there is, I think it's going to be like 1 or 2 offs that are in like one shots or like random modules. It's integrating that complicated system, which isn't that bad, into the game.
I think there's enough in currently with all the different rules on how reloading functions and adding special traits for guns that I don't think that'd be a big deal. Because you could just say that gunslingers are proficient with firearms, but they're an advanced weapon.
Yeah.
But so gunslingers would only get proficiency in firearms, and they would progress at whatever normal rate you want to give them. You want to give them the rate that the barbarians and rangers get. You want to make them that's probably the rate they're going to go. They're probably not going to get legendary. So that you can give them that, and they're proficient even though it's an advanced weapon, but everyone else is an advanced weapon, so they are at a much slower pace on guns, and you can give guns a misfire chance. And then, okay, well, the misfire chance is like, and it is misfire and has a number, misfire 5. If you roll a 5 or less, your gun misfires. But then the gunslinger has an effect that lowers the misfire rate.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, there wouldn't be that much rules to add because the reload mechanics are already like how many rounds does it take to reload, and a lot of these ranged mechanics are already built in the system. So I don't think it's that much to add on a trait or two.
If I may say something, I don't think the misfire I think the misfire should be handled differently than like a range. I think it should just be a critical failure with firing your firearm.
Ooh,
so
yeah,
it should just say, because I think we're overlooking that. And if we're gonna say let's bring guns into the system, and I'm not gonna fight against it, I'm not gonna fight for it, but what I'm gonna say is, why reinvent the wheel? So Paizo already created this system of critical hits and critical failures. So maybe misfiring with a gun says, okay, if you critically fail your first shot, right, it increases the map. That's your misfire. So okay, I misfired, critical fail miss, and now my next shot, instead of it being a 5, it's a 10.
That's a possibility.
Because right, like, if you're gonna use reload, right, hand crossbows have a reload of 1, and crossbows have a reload of 1, and heavy crossbows have a reload of 2. Meaning it's 2 actions and 1 action independently.
Yeah.
So like muskets would be a reload of 1, right? You can shoot and then reload and then shoot again. And you would pistols would be a reload of 1. So maybe muskets are a reload of 2, and a blunderbuss does the same effect. A reload of 2, because you're turning it over. My biggest concern is now the people who are like, well, I want a revolver. Like, I want the revolver. I want the repeater. I'm not sure if the pepper box, like a pepper box. And my question there is that, right? So the original Pathfinder 1E pepper box said you had to use a full round action to fire it, right? So that meant the one thing you were doing, you were just going blah, blah, blah. So that was your whole round.
Yeah.
Do you think pepper box would be like 1 action is like crank, 2 actions like this, and then 3 actions like this, and you got like
yes.
So what they could do, so yeah, a lot of this stuff can be taken in with the feats of the Gunslinger.
Mm-hmm.
So pepper box wouldn't actually be an item. It would like almost be like a modification that they're making to their gun, right? This is, you can really take this idea into because we already talked off camera earlier about how the lore issue with guns and firearms in Pathfinder is the one place that was actually manufacturing firearms and sending them out and selling them, they're not doing that anymore. They're literally like keeping them in, they're not really making them anymore, or whatever the lore is, but it's like firearms are no longer as available as they once were. Mm-hmm. With that, you could almost say, like Fabio had mentioned before, instead of me going to the store and buying my blunderbuss or rifle or whatever I'm buying, it's a more like an integrally crafted thing. And this is the reason why the Gunslinger would be proficient with it, even though it's advanced, but that everyone else would have to use the advanced progression on their whatever classes.
Yeah.
So then you could take the action, and it would be like a 3 action feat, and it would be called pepper box, and you've added a pepper box attachment, right? And it takes 3 actions, and you get this big effect if you hit. It may magnify the range. It may increase damage. It may maybe it gives you a -5 to attack, but then it increases the dice damage, or just pick to take your pick. Whatever effect you're going to give it, and then different attachments like long barrel. Okay, so your range is increased, or what have you, or you can go like with an optic or scope or something like that. You could build this into feats as it shows as the progression of the Gunslinger as getting more familiar with making firearms, and is like making this really weird get this really weird, almost like steampunkish style gun, where like it really looks like a weird contraption that could explode at any minute.
Yep.
But it just somehow works.
Yeah.
Give me the pistols with the bayonets. That's what I want.
I want a rotating bayonet.
Yeah.
I just want the
like a lawnmower
gun with the chainsaw.
Yeah, with the chainsaw? Fabio, this doesn't exist. Yeah, it does. I crafted it.
Downtime.
I'm an expert at Fabio, you're cheating. No,
reining it back in. Now we've talked about guns. We know Fabio definitely wants a gun.
Yes, give me a gun.
He wants Gunslinger. I know Gunslinger is a favorite of many people. We've seen pictures in the books of Lost Omens, where they've already showed gunslingers. They've showed them using that. I think Gunslinger would be really interesting, and the reason why I think it would be really interesting, besides the fact that it uses guns, and that's like a new mechanic, and that's people love new mechanics, right? It's cherries. I think Gunslinger would be really cool because you could do something where maybe they make alchemic cartridges. So you have your Gunslinger, right? So you have your pistolero, right? That was the one Fabio liked because they can fan the hammer and just unload onto people. So maybe that's like you have your main class, the one that focuses really about guns. Then you would have your martial Gunslinger, which is like the gun tank. They're more or less all about just wearing heavy armor and being literally a gun tank. And then you could have the alchemic craft Gunslinger, where instead of making bombs and stuff, you make rounds that have like sonic damage or fire or acid, and that also brings into downtime activity, right? But I could see the Gunslinger being another class that kind of uses downtime actively to make stuff. And I think that would be right up everyone's at, like the person who doesn't want to, again, maybe this is a class that isn't magic based and it's a third option for a non-magical based class that uses and creates things, because I know a lot of things, like Fabio wanted to make what arrow was that? There was like a specific arrow where you shot it and turned into a snake.
Oh, it was the snake arrow. I think it's just called the snake arrow.
So you shoot it and it becomes a snake. And Fabio was like, "Oh man, that's so cool! I love having that because I'm a ranger and I have my pet, and I would love to just add more pets to the battlefield." And
I wanted to have the House of Doom moment. That's it.
And
where it's like, I have the snake. Hit you with that viper. Oh, it's an arrow. Psych, it's a snake.
Yeah.
I was like, no wonder Conan went ham on him. Yeah. You have to. There's no turning back after that. Right? So I was like, all right, bet.
Yeah.
Continue, Giant.
So along that vein, Fabio needed someone who was able to cast Conjure Animal, and then that went into the whole crafting thing. But having a Gunslinger who could craft alchemic cartridges and give them multiple options on firing, which is similar, which would be a really interesting take on that. It really makes them separate than the alchemist and the ranger, right? Because like some people will be like, well, why wouldn't I just use a bow? I think later on in first edition there was like the hand crossbow Gunslinger.
Because guns are cooler.
Yeah, but also they make a loud boom. And if you're sneaking around, everyone hears the boom.
Yeah.
Except for the person that got hit.
Well,
just saying.
Yeah.
That's true.
I put that boom to your dome. That's it. It's game over.
I will tell you, I'm going to tell you one build that I think that everyone, once I say it, you're going to be like, gunslingers have to be in the game now. So you had mentioned alchemical rounds or chemical bullets that you can either make, or you have a limited number of times per day that you can craft these things like automatically.
Yeah.
Hellboy. I want to be a gunslinger Hellboy. Just like round 1 is fire, round 2 is acid, round 3 is like I knock your soul out of your body. I just just cause reasons.
A tracker. You shoot them.
I want to knock someone's soul out of their body with a gun. Yes.
Bow.
No. You see them dead, and then the clerk's like, just shoot his soul out of his body. Yes, put that gun away. Put it away. Nobody's ready to get their soul shot out their body. Yes. Give me that.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I would think anyone would love to play Hellboy.
That'd be dope. And it's, you can do that easy. I feel like that's definitely possible. I would love it if you have like the revolver, which you're not supposed to have, right? With all the cartridges, like, ooh, let me just spin this real quick and let's see what you get. What type of mystery will unfold from the end of this barrel? Bow. That's fun.
I think besides that, I don't see. Obviously they have something, right? They already know. In a week or so, we're gonna find out. I want to say I think all of us agree Inquisitor, but out of the 3 different concepts we have coming, I don't know. It could be we could be completely off, and it could be like a druid bard hybrid, and they sing to plants and make the plants do their bidding.
Oh, what is Little Shop of Horror?
They heard Tina's plight to have a class that can talk to plants level 1.
Yeah.
This makes me mad.
I'm just saying.
Fills me with rage.
So I feel we have really 3 great options, but let us know what you think in the comment section below. Also, if you could do us a solid and like and subscribe, we really appreciate it. And from all of us here at Nothing Venture, Nothing Game, I want to say thank you for spending maybe 45 minutes of your time with us. Say goodbye, everyone.
Peace out.
Later.